Welcome to the School Leaders Podcast. My name is Dr. Gastred Harrigan, the podcast for current and emerging school leaders, those who support and supervise them. You will hear from passionate educational leaders who are transforming their schools, communities, and creating positive outcomes for students. I will also share my personal reflections and tips from over 15 years as a school leader. Together, we will talk about how to level up our schools and leadership practices. Welcome to the School Leaders Podcast. This is your host, Dr. Gastred Harrigan. Before we get started with today's episode, I want to encourage all of our listeners to join the School Leaders Podcast community on Facebook. There, we continue and extend our conversation from the episodes. Today, I have a special guest, Heilange Porcena. She's a friend and colleague. She is an elementary principal. She's a phenomenal leader. She has been instrumental in improving student achievement, resulting in her school being moved from an F grade to a C grade. She's also the 2022 Principal of the Year from Broward County Public Schools. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Porcena to the School Leaders Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be here.
Before we get going, thank you for joining us, Ms. Porcena. I am honored that you are on the podcast today. Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a wife and mother of two girls, and started out in Broward County Public Schools in 1995. I started out as a teacher assistant. After college, I was in transition wanting to go to grad school, and I got a job as a TA. And as I was working, doing well, the principal approached me and said, "Hey, would you like to be a teacher? You have a 4-year degree." And I thought, well, I actually want to be a child psychologist, but okay. And she just kind of told me, well, she didn't want to take a no for an answer, and said, all right, well, just send your paperwork to Tallahassee. And in January, I will give you a class. And that's how I started as a teacher in Broward County. I taught for 16 years, and then I moved into a coaching position and then transitioned to an AP. From there, I was an AP at 2 different schools. So the second school where I am currently now, I transitioned from the AP position into the principal seat in 2016.
Awesome.
So
most assistant principals do not lead the same school. They don't become principal in the same school. Talk to us about that transition, being the assistant principal and then transitioning in the same school as a principal. Talk to us and share how was that transition, and what are some of the things you gleaned from that for other intern principals or assistant principals who may be looking to transition into that role within their same school?
Well, it was a great opportunity. It was great, but at the same time, it was difficult because when you are an assistant principal, it's a different role. You're supporting your principal's vision. And then here you are, everybody wants you to be like what you were as the assistant principal. So the roles are similar, but very, very different. So it was an honor to be able to transition into the principal seat at Northside. I love the community. I love the teachers and the students. And being Haitian educator or having Haitian background, the community is mostly Haitian descent. And so the children, I was able to connect with them. And being able to stay there and serve has been an honor and a privilege. But definitely just the transition was a little difficult because now I was not the disciplinarian. I found myself wanting to keep doing those things. And my assistant principal would sometimes have to nudge me and say, I got this, because I know the community, I know the kids. And so I was able, it was hard for me to let go of that role and now focus on all the other things like budget and being the big picture instead of all the day-to-day operational things. So that was the difficult part, was just removing my hand out of the day-to-day operational things and allowing my assistant principal to do that. Now I do that well. I don't dabble too much into that role anymore. Um, so definitely the advantage to that was I already knew I had built relationship with the community and the parents. And so I had a lot of support in the transition.
I think that's awesome because often I never had that opportunity, but I've had colleagues who move and they express the same thing you did. Number one, they still are acting in that same role, and also sometimes it's a struggle to let go, and oftentimes they said, well, the staff treat me different because of the fact that I was the assistant, now I'm moving into the principalship, and often it takes them a while to transition, to let go of what they used to do. A lot often discipline and allow the assistant principal to do it, especially they've already built relationship and sort of the staff knew how they normally handle problems, good, bad, or indifferent. Now let's shift into the principalship. You've been a principal for several years now. Share with us some of the broad lesson you've learned as a principal, and how other leaders who are listening to you can glean from that.
Well, definitely, this is my sixth year now at the same school, and building strong relationships not only with the staff, students, but also community. Having to lead a school with so many needs, it's not just educational needs. Um, I've had to partner with quite a few um, businesses to be able to meet the needs of my families, and the students. So it's been great to open up a school year and not having to worry or have the parents worry about, are they able to afford uniforms and backpacks and school supplies, because I'm able to provide that for all 300 plus students every single year because of the strong relationships that I have within the community, churches and businesses. So during the summertime, we're working together to get all these items collected. So when the children return, all their needs are met without the parents have the added stress of, will their children have what they need to be able to have a successful school year. So definitely building strong relationships outside of the school and within the school, and having the buy-in and making sure the decisions that you make, sometimes you have to make quick decisions, but if you're planning ahead, then you're able to get some buy-in and get feedback from, I run many things by my AP or my leadership team and saying, this is what I'm thinking about, and what do you think? Give me some feedback before we roll it out. So it makes the transition a little easier. And also, it took me some time to do this, but building like a strong instructional leadership team, I think now I can honestly say that we have a great team. Some of them are homegrown. They're teachers that I poured into over the years through mentorship and encouraging them to go back to school, and scaling up their best practices. And so some of these teachers that were first year teachers now are my part of my leadership team, and they're now in turn coaching the new teachers coming in, and that gives them the confidence, because they remember where they started, and now they've seen how much they've grown, and they are pouring into our new teachers. And then I do my best to match their strength with the task. I'm very, I think I'm very calculated, and I think through, okay, these are the tasks that needs to be divvied up. And I think about each individual member's strengths, and I match that with their strengths, so then we can get better results.
I think awesome. Thank you for sharing that because I often we hear it said, but it is very important, as you indicated. Building strong community relationship is invaluable, and you are correct that a school like yours is very important. Really, any school, it is very important that leaders, principals in particular, take the time to build a community relationship, like you indicated, bringing partners alongside to meet the needs of your families, of your students. So I'm assuming, based on what you indicated, your school is a low socioeconomics, and bringing in partners every year to provide resources, to provide material, to provide backpacks and school supplies, to remove that stress on parents is outstanding. And you also talked about building strong leadership team. And to all my principals who are listening, you cannot do this job alone, right? If you are new into the principalship, this is not a one man, one woman show. You really, the successful principals, from what I'm hearing from you, is that you build a strong team. And you mentioned that you build homegrown, which tell me that new teachers came in, and over time you support them and build their capacity until now they're not only they're part of the leadership team, but they are supporting other leaders. That is outstanding, and I think that is key to ensuring that there's a strong community in that school. Now, if we could go back a bit, the past 2 to 3 years, I don't know how it's been for you coming out of COVID, dealing with COVID, coming out of COVID. School leaders and principals in particular have faced tremendous challenges leading their schools. Our work have become extremely polarized, politically connected. It was always political, but it took a new turn. Reflect and share how you have navigated these past 2 3 years, and tips you can share with new leaders, with new principals, of how they could lead their school, especially if they're leading a tough, difficult school or school community.
Well, for me, I really focus on just the school. I kind of put blinders on and just kind of tune out all the extra noise out there, and I kind of protect my staff and my students. And so I deliver things in small bite size for them, and things that they don't need to stress over. I don't even bring it up. But also clear communication, being flexible. That was definitely something that I had to learn, because I'm very type A, and I plan ahead, and I have like checklists. I live by checklists, and then you get the list of things that needs to be done, especially during COVID, and then things change, and so you kind of like, okay, what's next? But just going in and saying, okay, just be flexible, and knowing that we are living in unprecedented times, and just focusing on the work, focusing on the students' needs, and saying, okay, whatever decision we make has to be what is best for the children. So during the pandemic, we're really just, let's focus on what do the kids need to be successful. They're home, they're sad, making sure that they have food. I had a team of people calling them on a daily basis, those who are not engaged, making sure that, whatever the need was, we tried to meet the need. If it was, hotspots or a laptop, or they just need to navigate, and had different people with speaking different languages, to make sure that we communicate with the parents, so to help them, because everything was so new. But we just, every day we came in and say, okay, so what do we need to do today to make sure that our children are successful? And the kids who we felt were not doing well, we encouraged the parents to bring them in, especially like on testing days, bring them in. We will feed them, keep them protected as much as possible, and care for them. So before when it was safe to come back, we had about 75% of our students return, way before, the district was pushing for kids to come back. We were already at a good place where we felt like, okay, we can still maintain our C. Now, remember, we came from an F to a C, and we were in panic mode of, we can't lose, we can't go back. So when many of the schools took a deep dive, we were able to maintain the C, even through the pandemic. And I think that was because we just kind of tuned out all the extra noise and the constant changes, and just kind of kept everything as positive as possible, and to just care for our children. We call them our children, but we made kind of home visits of drop off food at the door, if that's what they needed, and kept that communication line open. And also, I just made sure that I communicated with my staff as much as possible, so nobody had to really make up a story, because they heard it exactly what needed to be done directly from me on a regular basis.
That's key, maintaining and clear, consistent communication to cut through the noise and sometimes the rumors. So that is very important, especially during crisis time. Leaders need to lead from the front with clear communication, consistent messaging, and being real, authentic, and sharing with people exactly, and providing updates in terms of where we are, how things are improving, and adapting as needed. You also mentioned that you moved the school from an F to a C right before the pandemic. Pandemic hit, and you're like, wow, I hope we don't drop. And I think I looked online. Your data remain. You maintain your data. So so talk to us now. Moving your school, the experiences, the strategies, tools that you were able, because you're a turnaround leader, you were able to move your school from an F to a C. Pandemic happened, which we know, the Great Recession, teacher shortages, mental health exploded, and yet throughout that, you came out on the other side and you maintained your C. So reflect and share some of your top strategies that other principals can implement to move and improve student achievement at their school.
Okay. Well, the year of the F, after there were so many changes that took place. We had the state remove like 3 teachers that year, and then didn't really have a replacement for them. And I had to replace these teachers that were removed in October, brand new teachers that didn't even have any teaching experience at all. And so that was just kind of like the setup for our, demise. But so the following year, I had to again own it, even though there were things that were done beyond my control. So I still owned it and say, okay, kind of dust myself off after sulking for a few days. And then I said, okay, now I'm the leader. I own the F, and started the school year. I knew that the message to open up the school year was probably the most important message for my staff, because everybody is down, and we were the only F in the entire county, and maybe I think the Tri-County area. So it was very, very difficult to swallow. So I came up with 3 words over the summer. It was focus, fight, forward, and we kind of used that as our theme for the year. And I had the staff come up with other words that began with F that were positive. And the children bought in on the focus, fight, forward. I played the song Yes We Can for the children throughout the year, especially on testing days, and just to really bring morale up. And one of the main strategies I know for sure, it was just really, when you're an F, everybody wants to give you their remedy or their point of view, or what they think you should do differently, or here's a program. Everybody wants you to try their program, or we were like piloting everything. And I just knew that wasn't going to work, because you can't be a jack of all trades, especially when the state gave us an ultimatum of you need to move the school from an F to a C in 1 year. So we did not have much time. And I know that a program is as good as the teacher. So if the teachers don't understand the program, or they're not using the program with fidelity, then it's not going to work. I had to kind of step back a little bit and say, okay, what are we going to focus on? And I chose just a few key, outside of tier 1 instruction, what were another supplemental program that we could use, that we can really institutionalize and make it part of the school culture, where the children have buy-in and the teachers have buy-in. And then we just said, okay, that's what we're going to focus on, and master that. And I incentivized it, And so we set daily goals, weekly goals, monthly goals. We celebrated successes every step of the way. I had monthly meetings with my stakeholders, district personnel, and also all my parents, who we invited them also for our monthly meetings. And this is in addition to our monthly SAC meetings. We had to have another meeting to kind of give an update. And I really brought in the parents for them to understand the program that we were using, and for them to how they can support us at home as well, and make it a household, word. And just all of us, just kind of joining hands and saying, we got to do this. We got to we have to focus on the goal each and every day. We have to fight for the community, because the school is, the building was built in 1927. So we are,
Historical
what's the word
building.
I'm looking for? Yes, we are a historical building, and the school has been around since 1927. And I thought, my goodness, I cannot let these doors close under my leadership. So it was very important for me to just keep saying those words: focus every day, fight for this community, fight for this school, and move forward. And because sometimes we tend to sit and wallow and wallow. It's like, no, we're going to move forward. We got to move forward from this. We got to move forward. And so, um, so with that, and really focusing on changing the culture, the school culture, and in the sometimes teachers, well, not just teachers, we as a school, when we are working with children in low socioeconomic statuses, we tend to show so much empathy that we sacrifice high expectations. And so I said, well, we can't sacrifice high expectations because we're empathize with the situations of our families and our children. We have to have high expectations. The children, if we raise the expectations, raise the bar, they're going to rise to the occasion. They're going to show us that they can do this. And that's exactly what happened. I just would not allow for, children for us to say, oh, well, they can't do homework because they don't have this or XYZ. Well, we make sure we meet those needs. Whatever it is, we meet those needs. If your shoes are busted, we're going to give you a new pair of shoes the same day. So that was really what helped us turn the school around in such a short period of time, is not trying to implement everything, and just staying focused on what is the goal, and what are the needs of the children to meet those goals.
That is also some of the things, as you were talking, and I was just jotting down some of the key things and top strategies for all my leaders who are listening. I want to make sure, Ms. Porcena said a lot and how she moved her school in 1 year from an F to a C. And she said a lot of things. And I just want to make sure to all of you listening that you captured everything, because I know she was sharing and dropping a lot of nuggets. So some of the things I hear was scale up tier one instruction, making sure that the instruction that's happening in the classroom, you scale that up and it's sound. I heard she mentioned high expectation, making sure regardless of the kids' socioeconomics, yes, we're going to meet their needs. She mentioned that if you don't have a shoes, we're going to give you shoes, we're going to give you clothes, we're going to give you supply, but we're going to have high expectation for our babies to make sure that, yes, regardless of the poverty or the challenge you have, we're expecting you to perform and to learn. And we know the research is clear that kids rise to the level of expectation. So I also heard you said focus on key areas, whatever those areas you for, obviously for you is academic areas. You had a handful of areas. Focus on key areas, not trying to do so many programs, implement so many things, right? Because really programs do not improve student achievement. It's really people. It's really the teachers in front of the kids and how they implement that specific program. So I heard focus on key areas, and you talked about having clear goals. And I want to stop right there. And for all of you that are listening, I don't know when you're going to be listening to this episode, but I would recommend that you go back to January's episode and listen to setting goals and and becoming a better leaders. And setting goals episode, it talks about having your own personal goals and professional goals for your life. And the second episode talking about being a better leader, system and procedures that you can really utilize to be a better leader. It's very important, as Ms. Porcena indicated, you have clear cut goals. She talked about daily, weekly, monthly, quality goals, and I heard you said you also met with the parents, so you involve the families in, and not only involve them in terms of the data, but I heard you said you would share with them on the progress that you guys were making, which is awesome and outstanding. And in that process, you talked about the transformation of school culture. That yes, the culture of the school must transform. And in fact, culture trumps strategies. There's a saying that culture, and if you don't address the culture of your school, whatever strategies you put in place, the culture would eat it up. So these are some of the great things that Ms. Porcena just shared to all of you that are listening. If you need to pause and rewind this, that you could right now take one or two nuggets to really transform your school from an F, from whatever it is right now, and take it to the next level. So thank you for sharing these nuggets of how you move your school in 1 year. And I have to say, it's phenomenal. Schools take several years because the research is clear. It takes 3 to 5 years, and you were able to move your school from F to a C within 1 year. That is awesome. As we move forward to the
Thank
next
you.
thing, for all of our emerging leaders and assistant principals that are listening here to this podcast, share with some of them that are looking to move into the principalship. Share some of the tips or advice or strategy you would share with them of how they could make the leap from emerging leader to assistant principal, or from assistant principal to principalship.
Making time daily for me to learn from the greats, right? Who I consider the greats. And I learned this from a couple years back. Dr. Todd Whitaker came to our district and he did his presentation, and he talked about how the internet, social media is just filled with resources for us to learn from. And I really took that to heart that day. And I went on Twitter and I just kind of searched principals from all over the country. And I started following them and just seeing what they're doing at their school, and just looking how I can learn from that and also replicate. Because sometimes you don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel. There's so many ideas out there. There's so many opportunities for you to learn, and just small little nuggets each and every day that I make it a point to learn something each and every day. Whether I joined just about all the groups I could find on Facebook with principals that are sharing ideas. So between Twitter and Facebook principal groups, and there's a group for everything. There's even a praying principals group. So I joined those just to kind of, that's where I get the majority of my PD on a daily basis. So never stop searching for new ideas. Definitely seeking mentorship, whether it's somebody local or reaching out to someone who's already done it before, that you can just learn a few nuggets from. Yes, there's lots of great educational leaders out there. And also I started really listening to podcasts. There's so many great podcasts, including this one, Brene Brown's podcast. So I focus on my mental health, because that was another piece of it too. Coming from the high stress of turning a school around, the pandemic and everything else, I had to really take a few steps back and focus on my mental and physical health. So I make it a point now, instead of staying at the school till wee hours of the night, that I leave at a decent time that I can go to the park and I walk. And while I'm walking, I'm also not only addressing my physical health, but also I'm pouring into myself by listening to podcasts and listening to all of the greats that are out there that are really doing some great work in educational leadership.
It's awesome. You said one of the things leaders can do, especially emerging and assistant principal and principals, is follow some of the greats out there, whether it is on Twitter or Facebook. And I would agree with you that there's a lot of PLNs, professional learning networks on on Twitter that you could follow, and you are correct. You really learn iron sharpen iron. So obviously you could find some great ideas, and you don't always have to reinvent the wheel. And it's very important that you connect yourself with others who are growing, so that way you also can grow. I heard you mention mental health and personal health, and that is critical as leaders, whether you're emerging or assistant principal or principalship. Mental health is key. Really, mental health for everyone, but our job is very taxing, is very stressful. So making time for personal health, for mental health, to ensure that you are healthy, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. If you are empty, obviously you can't pour, you can't give. You got to always replenish. You got to always refill. So it's very important that you do it. And if you're looking for those of you who are listening for some tips and strategy around mental health, I would say go to the December's episode where I share five self-care tips for school leaders, for principals, for leaders, and how to ensure that they are taking care of their mental health. So, Ms. Porcena, thank you so much for sharing so much nuggets. As we wrap up this interview, share with us your favorite book or quote and why.
Definitely right before, ironically, I picked up the book before I even became a principal the summer beforehand. It was What Great Principals Do Differently by Dr. Todd Whitaker. And I've held on to this book and read it over and over again. I find that one it's an easy read, and it's filled with great nuggets. And I would definitely recommend that for aspiring leaders and current leaders that's really looking to scale up their best practices. And I'm also currently reading Leading with a Humble Heart, which is a 40-day devotional by Dr. Zach Bowermaster. And I find that also because, I'm a woman of faith. And so just really taking that time each and every morning to just some self-care and focusing on the mental health and preparing myself for the day's events, because it's nothing is ever planned.
Absolutely. And there's a whole thing about how you start your morning, set your day. And so making sure that you set your day properly, whether it is a mindfulness, whether it is prayer, whether it is devotion, whether it is with the word. Like you, I'm a man of faith, so I believe every morning connecting and praying and seeking God for direction is critical. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Tell everyone who's listening how they can connect with you.
You can follow me on Twitter, NSC Porcena, at NSC Porcena. On Twitter, I'm on Facebook as well, but I really don't post much there. But I really use my Twitter account for my educational leadership. So that's if you want to know what's going on at Northside, you can follow me there.
So if you want to connect with Porcena, her primary professional account is mainly Twitter. So follow on Twitter. I will also add her Twitter handle in the show notes. So take a look in the show notes and connect with the Principal of the Year, Ms. Porcena, and learn from some of the great things that are happening at her school and some of the leadership tips that she shares on a weekly, monthly basis. Again, thank you for being on the podcast.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for joining me today. Please consider subscribing to the podcast. Leave a 5-star rating and a comment. Share this episode with a friend and on social media. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for leadership ideas and tips. Again, thank you for joining me today. Until next time.